Hello bookworms, I'm Becca and today I'm doing a huge June book haul. The first books that I'm going to talk about are the ones I got in Florida, starting with Burning by Danielle Rollins, who also writes under the pseudonym Danielle Vega. You might know her from writing The Merciless 2, and Survive the Night. The Merciless 3 is coming out in like 2 weeks and I'm super pumped about it. But Burning follows a teenage girl named Angela who is currently in juvie and is selected to monitor a new inmate that comes in who's like 10. And she starts realizing that there is something weird going on with this girl, and it's a YA thriller, which was super good. And I just love Danielle Rollins' writing so much, so I had to pick this one up, and I read it and loved it. I also got Breaking by Danielle Rollins. This is a brand new release, and I couldn't find it anywhere except for in Florida, so I literally had to go to another state to find it, but I'm so glad that I did. This one we follow Charlotte, who is at an all-girls prep school, and she has two really close friends who is basically like her family until one day both of them commit suicide. And Charlotte is really confused by this, and she starts finding clues that they left behind, and things get crazy. Danielle Rollins, Danielle Vega, however you want to say it, is a bomb thriller writer. She takes a lot of inspiration from Stephen King, so yeah, they're pretty awesome. If you haven't read any of her books, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I also got The Nest by Kenneth Opel. Apparently this is a middle grade horror novel, and I cannot find anything about the synopsis from this book. Literally, I went on Goodreads and the synopsis is in another language, and I'm really confused. But there were a lot of people who read this book and said it was extremely strange. So I'm excited for it. I love me a good horror thriller novel. Even in the middle of summer, that's what I like to pick up. So middle grade, I'm coming for ya. And the last book I got while in Florida is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is about a village that lies at the edge of a wood where a very malevolent wizard known as the Dragon lives, and he protects the village, but his price is that every 10 years he comes and takes a girl from the village to be his servant for 10 years. And when they come back, they are way different than when they went. So the choosing is coming up, and the main character doesn't think she's going to get picked, but she ends up getting picked, and the story goes from there. I have wanted this book for so long. I cannot even tell you guys. This is one of the books I have been longing to have in my collection, and the cover is so beautiful, and it's got deckled edges, and oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I finally found this book. Okay, now let's talk about the library books that I got to read this past week. For the last week in June for Pride Month, I was only able to read a couple of them, so I'm definitely going to work my way through the rest of them. And I'm sad that I wasn't able to get it sooner in the month, but I mean, it is what it is. The first one I got that I'm going to be picking up like right now is Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This is about a princess who is betrothed to a prince from another land, and she finds out very early on in her life that she has this magical ability to control fire, but the prince that she's betrothed to is from a land where magic is not a good thing and not like tolerated. So she spends her whole life trying to conceal her growing power, and now she has to kind of learn the ways of her new land, and she has to learn how to ride these war horses. So one of the other princesses from that land is teaching her, and then there's an assassination. So these two princesses join forces to find out who the assassin is, and they end up falling in love with each other. So that is the cutest twist I've ever seen in my life, and I'm super excited to read this book. I've heard only good things about it, and even though I don't pick up fantasy that often, I cannot wait to read this because it sounds like it's going to be amazing. I also have The Art of Being Normal by Lisa Williamson. This book is about a boy named David who identifies as transgender and wants to be a girl, but he's like a huge outcast, and then he ends up befriending a new kid at school, and that's really all that is said on the flap of this book, except like at this high school, secrets have a way of making themselves known. So I don't know. This isn't a known voices novel as far as transgender representation goes, so that's kind of a bummer, but I'm still willing to give it a try. I also got and devoured Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This is about a wayward home for children who have returned from fantastical lands and need to learn how to cope with the real world again. And it is the most beautiful story that I've read in such a long time, and it's so thin, and I wish that there was so much more. It seems like anything you could think of, there is a magical land for it. There's like a spiderweb land, and lands of like the underworld and afterworld, and there's just so many different types of lands, and I want to learn about all of them, basically. I also got Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. This is a debut novel by this author and features a teenager named Riley who identifies as gender fluid and all of the internal issues that go along with that. I think that it's a really interesting representation of the dysphoria that comes with being gender fluid, and I can't speak to how accurate the representation is, but I had a really great reading experience. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I absolutely loved it. And the last book I got from the library is Not Otherwise Specified by Hannah Moskowitz. This is about a teenager who identifies as bisexual but doesn't feel like she really fits in at her very small school in Nebraska. So she decides to audition for a performing arts school in New York. And that is amazing because, hello, that is like right up my alley. So I'm really interested to read this book for that aspect, and it's got some really great representation. So yeah, super excited for it. So now I'm gonna just talk about the few books that I've bought in since I came back from Florida. The first one being And I Darken by Kirsten White. So this is a young adult fantasy about 2 siblings who were abandoned by their father and then raised in another empire. And the sister absolutely despises this empire, and so she is like plotting to return to her actual land and reclaim what is rightfully hers. But her brother actually likes the empire and is considering it his new home. So then they befriend the son of the Sultan and create this amazing friendship. But the Sultan is obviously like the heir to this empire, and the sister hates the empire, but the brother considers it home, so their relationship like turns really toxic. That's what I gathered from the inside flap. The cover is absolutely beautiful, and the story sounded really intriguing, so I picked it up. I also ended up buying Tash Hearts Tolstoy by Catherine Ormshy. This is about a teenager named Tash who identifies as asexual, so we got some more asexual rep, and she has like an obsession with Tolstoy, so she creates this web series that is a modern retelling of Anna Karenina, and it goes viral. So that sounds really interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one. It sounds really quirky and fun, so it should be interesting for sure. And finally, because we just recently celebrated the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Josh spoiled me and got me this beautiful box set that like everybody has, but not really, of Harry Potter, and am definitely going to be reading all of these. I've actually not reread the series since I originally got all of my Harry Potter books, like growing up. I've never reread the series, but there's something almost sacred about that set that I grew up with, so I'm really happy to have this amazing and really heavy box set. Just one second. So basically, I'm just really excited to have that box set because for one, it's beautiful, and for two, I'm gonna reread the series. I'm gonna do it. And there you guys go. That is my June book haul. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned, please let me know your thoughts and feelings down below in the comments. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you next time.